Hello everyone and welcome to my first Chronicles of Gagana meta snapshot. Now this is following the Ruunin's Open, and I've taken decks from that Open. I'm going to be displaying them here in this meta snapshot and basically just talking about the decks and how I feel about them and how they fit into the competitive scene, but also the ladder scene as well. So these may be some decks that you might want to try out on ladder. Now, I do have the addition of a Beast deck. So I think Beasts is in a decent spot right now, but I feel that the Ruunin's Open has proven that the blue-green jump variant may be a little stronger. So the first deck on my list is actually a deck that I created, and I climbed from about rank 9 to about rank 2 with this build. It's just a very straightforward beast deck. It did run all the foreign exhibitions and frog tossers and stuff, but because I wasn't running water elemental, it was a little slow, so I sped things up by just adding more options in terms of removal. Humbling Visions is always great. Scale things down, make sure we can kill them or even remove them if they have one life. Hunt Down, of course, is a staple in any kind of beast variant. Red Elderwood Embrace, you know, your typical beastly things. The biggest inclusion to the deck in these two cards, we have the Tiki Zoologist. I think this card's fantastic. Not necessarily just in Beast, but as a green card. It's a 2 Faeria 1/1, and it's going to discover you an extra card, so it gives you a card advantage. Card neutrality, I would say. You play a card, you gain a card, and that could be something quite useful depending on the situation. Now, I would say this card is quite interesting. I wouldn't say it's that strong. It's very situational. I feel that the fact that this is a green creature and the Fugu is a blue creature does create some awkward land placements every now and then. The inclusion of blue actually might make this card a lot worse. So maybe a mono green beast would be best suited. It has had its moments, but in most cases, I found that it's the other beast focused cards that have been doing well. Now, how this will do in competitive play, I do not know. On the ladder, it's been pretty decent. But if you're interested in trying a blue-green beasts, then this deck might be the one for you. Alright, on to our next deck. We have a Recurrence deck built by Summerflame, and Summerflame did take first place in the Ruunin's Open. Now, this is pretty standard in terms of Recurrence, but what Summerflame has done is include in Faeria Expedition in order to find more win conditions. So Recurrence were a very powerful tribal archetype before the Chronicles of Gagana. Now, the Recurrence didn't actually get that much support in terms of their tribe, but because of the color combinations, Faeria Expedition does fit into this deck quite nicely. You know, you're going to the Frog Tosser anyway. That's one of the key removal cards of this tribe. And now you also have a card that will fetch you potentially a win condition. So I feel that the Faeria Expedition is a very nice inclusion in this archetype, and it did very well for Summerflame as he was able to take first place in the Ruunin's Open. Sorry. Now, I have not got much experience playing Recurrence, so I can't really say how strong this deck will be on ladder. But if you are a fan of Recurrence and you're looking for a new build to give a try, definitely stick in that Faeria Expedition, give this build a whirl, tweak it as you like, but this card will definitely give you more punch when it comes to the late game, or maybe a situational card that will help you in a jam. So our next deck is going to be Yellow Rush. It makes its return in the Chronicles of Gagana. Now, I know everyone loves Yellow Rush, the most loved aggro archetype of all of Faeria. Now, what has changed here? Now, this is Duke of Prunes build, also known as Dickleton in Faeria. This was used by Summerflame to get first place as well, so it has proven itself within the competitive field. Now, the biggest card that has been included into this build is Shara's Inspiration. Now, one thing I didn't know about this card until playing recently is the +2/+2 trigger for each adjacent enemy also includes your opponent's orb. So including the opponent's orb there to get that additional power up makes this quite a menacing card. You know, you got followers already hitting for 2 damage, given +2 off the orb and anything else around it. It can go up to about 6 damage. So this deck can burst very heavily if it gets off a good Shara's Inspiration. So it's a very something to be mindful of if you're playing against Yellow Rush, how you position your creatures and how you can avoid those big burst attacks. Now this Yellow Rush build follows the old Teddy sling things across the field with Mistral Guide plan. You can play it more traditional if you don't get the Mistral Guide, you know, going for those double neutrals, getting those deserts up close, playing the haste boys, yada yada. But the Mistral Guide plan is going to give you enough time to find a good position for maybe a Wind Soldier or a follower to sneak in to the orb, use Shara's Inspiration, and then just punch them for tons and tons of damage. So a lot of burst potential in this Yellow Rush deck. Very dangerous and probably a very strong deck to climb on ladder. Any aggro deck is going to be good on ladder because you have quick, you're either going to win fast or you're going to lose fast. And no matter what the outcome is, quick games equal more stars and quicker progression. So onto our next jump, onto our next deck is a blue-green jump, the one I was talking about during the Beast part of the video. I feel this is probably the superior blue-green jump out of the 2 archetypes. Now I have been playing a more greedier ramp variant using Faeria golems and the Fugus, the 2/3 Fugus that become 5/6s. Let me just see their names. Yeah, using these guys, the Leaping Fugus as well. So a very land-heavy version. But this version was piloted by a couple of players in top 4 in the Ruunin's Open. A few little differences here and there, but the general plan is you ramp your lands out, use your jump creature's mobility plus the power-ups to take those favorable clears or trades. And then you have Firing Expedition as your win con, so you can just dig for something and find a card to help you out in a situation. Your Frog Tosser, good piece of removal. Ninja Toad, another piece of removal that can double collect. Only one of in this. Maybe that's to make room for other things like Sunken Tower. As you can see, there's a one-of Sunken Tower as well, so a bit of utility. So yeah, kind of the same thing Blue-Green Jump has been doing all along. But this time they have the inclusion of Firing Expedition to try and find additional win conditions. Now, like I said, I believe this deck is probably stronger than the Beast archetype right now, so if you're looking for a blue-green deck, definitely check this one out. Alright, Husk Control. I'm a big fan of the mono-yellow hand disruption strategies. I've been playing a lot of mono-yellow myself. I've even built Celeste versions of the hand control strategy. They're not as consistent as, say, a build like this, but very fun. This was piloted in top 4 as well. I believe it was Neron who made this deck. And it's pretty run-of-the-mill in terms of the hand disruption. I think the most interesting choices here for me is the inclusion of the Blightborn Spectre over, say, the Dustbringer Wraith. I'm a big fan of Blightborn Spectre. I've always used both of them in my hand disruption builds. But I think for this strategy, Neron was planning to use these creatures to get powered up, just kind of sit them back. That's how I've been playing, getting that power from the hand disruption. And then when they're big, they're much more difficult to manage. And once you start using all those events as well, the Windstorm Colossus becomes cheaper. So you have that very mobile win condition to finish things off. There's also Barter in this deck. Now, Barter is a very interesting card. What I like about Barter in an event deck is it doubles down as 2 events. So it's a good way to get those Colossus reduced. But you could also find some really spicy stuff from your opponent. So it gives you some more options. You have Spirit Theft. You can steal your opponent's creatures. There's some hard removal in here. The Amani Merchant is a very good card. Just fill your opponent's hand up with garbage. Basically, once you have well control and your opponent's Faeria starved, these cards become very strong because you will find a card that you can play and then your opponent will be cluttered with these cards they can't afford. So I've been really enjoying this deck. This is probably the deck I've played the most recently. Out of the list I have, I played a lot of the blue-green beasts a couple of weeks ago, but Husk Control has been one of my favorites. Okay, so this is one from Superb Lizard. Now, I can't really say where this deck stands in terms of the ladder meta, but in the competitive meta, I can imagine this deck being quite scary. This is like your old school blue-yellow events, the blue-yellow pew-pew, if you guys remember. Imagine that deck, but without the pew-pew and just more events to power up the Disciple, and then you can use that Kaleem's training and the Fanatic to shift it into a position where it can one-shot your opponent. So this is a one-turn kill deck. Lizard was actually saying it's worth using Failed Experiment on the Triton Stargazer. So you get a 1 Faeria draw 3 cards. It's pretty good. Pretty good advice there. You can also use the Failed Experiment on Law Thief as well, and Fanatic if you need to save that Faeria. So what you're looking to do is just kind of wait for an opportunity to drop 1 or 2 turtles, just play loads of events, campfires, messages, soul packs, that sort of thing, buff it up, and then get yourself into a position where you can maneuver this turtle into range of the orb, get up to 20 power. Maybe I'll take one, maybe it could take 2 shots if you got 2 turtles, down if you have 2 Aurora's Disciple, and then you finish off your opponent. So pretty straightforward. Lots of events, play lots of them, make a big turtle, hit the face. So 3 more decks remaining. Now, this is another deck piloted by Lizard, and he does say that he feels that Beastmaster is once again in a very strong position. And it looks really typical in terms of kind of Beastmaster stuff. Lack of Verdran Force is interesting. We do see Feral Kodama and we see Eridan maybe in its place. Now, Feral Kodama was put into the deck as an answer to any kind of burn strategies that showed up in the tournament. It gave a way to kind of burst heal and also have that aggressor next to your opponent's orb. Eridan synergizes with the Time of Legends, is the only legendary in the deck, so it's a way to just further push the Beastmasters. If you're able to Time of Legends into Eridan, these Beastmasters will start buffing each other while they're played down. So that's really useful. So Beastmasters are buffing other Beastmasters who are then buffing other creatures. So lots of little power-ups being distributed throughout the course of playing the deck, if you can get that Eridan combo off. And then there's your good old-fashioned Feed the Forest, get a Burst of Faeria, or Feed the Forest the Oaklin, and try your best to hit a Deepwood Stalker to have that massive removal piece. So just a very consistent green Beastmaster. Always been very good for tournament mono green. It can catch some certain decks off guard. If you are a fan of mono green, you might want to try this on ladder. I haven't tried it myself. One thing to consider as well is the Feral Kodama. If you're not playing in a more burn-orientated meta, you could probably switch these guys out if you wanted to anything you want to play. Could be Verdran Force if you want to jam in some Verdran Forces. You can also play Ruunin if you're a fan of Ruunin, or Duodia. So there are definitely options that can replace a Kodama if you don't feel it's necessary. So now one of my favourite colour combinations, unfortunately didn't receive a dual colour card in the recent expansion, as the green-red mecha. So just a build upon the green-red combat decks that were showing up in the last expansion. We were seeing more Crackthorn-orientated decks during that kind of reign of green-red, but now this build did very well in the recent tournament, and it looks like I believe it was Summer Flame who built this. Let me check very quickly, but yeah, what players are planning to do now is utilize the value from the Fragmenter. You get additional creatures that you can power up with the 2 beasties down here. And yeah, it follows the old combat rules as well. You're going to get brigands, you're going to get bosses, they're going to generate Faeria for you, which is also very good. There's also the Revelers as well. Only 2 Revelers in this build, interestingly enough. Cannon Carrier, a way to just throw a 4/2 either down down defensively or up aggressively, but you can also throw it into range of future salamanders and stuff like that. I feel like the mech synergy is pretty good for green-red already, because we were already using the bosses, the underground boss and brigand. So we were already using that combat synergy, and now there's new combat synergy within the mechs. You have the ground shakers. There's no detonate in this deck, and maybe that's because there wasn't a Rune grappling hook has generally been a bit more popular in green-red. But detonate could definitely fit in here if you're willing to make some cuts, maybe of the guidances, which helps against burn. It's quite a versatile card in that way. I would really like to see green-red beasts, because you could use the beast trainer in red, this guy here, and reduce the cost of like these two. Maybe get some ancient boars in there. It depends. It's something I might look into in the future. But right now, if you're looking for something green-red, something power-up orientated, and a lot of little chip damage, a lot of nuisances in developing these mechs, then green-red will be the deck for you. So on to our last deck here that featured in competitive. Now, this build is a little different to what you'd expect. You can see the Roman yak at the top. But this deck was very successful in the tournament, and I do believe this is Summer Flame's version. So Summer Flame played this to first place, and it's just he says here in the description of the deck, which can be found on the hub, mid-range combat deck utilizing the ability of Fragmenter rather than the mech tribe, replaces boss in typical combat lists. And he said he added some tech cards, punishment tech for discover cards, so you have a lot of treasures in your metagame. Punishment's really good because it hits them all for 5 damage. And Romagnac can help smooth out lands, axe grinders, bomb slingers, and provide an early collector. So using the additional neutral tile that's developed by the yak to maybe set up onto that well to get the axe grinder spot down, or just shoot up a neutral land so you can mount it into the bomb slinger. Now, as far as kind of red goes, this is pretty standard. Nothing too out of the ordinary apart from these two cards. And then we have the inclusion of the Fragmenter over the Underground Boss. You could potentially swap these out for more mech creatures, and then swap these out for detonates, or swap these out for detonates. You can make it more mech orientated. You can make it less mech orientated. It's really up to you. Red's quite flexible when it comes to a mid-range or a combat style deck. So yeah, pretty standard. Red hasn't changed that much in fundamentally how it plays, unless the mechs get involved. And we only have 2 Fragmenters in this deck, so there's not a lot different. So if you're looking for something you're familiar with, but also you want a bit of spice in there to change things up, this might be the deck for you. So that's it for my meta roundup for the first meta roundup for the Chronicles of Gagana. Looking at the tournament decks that are placed well in the Ruunin's Open number 1, but also just a few decks that you might want to consider for ladder. Not all of these will be optimized for ladder, but it does give you an idea of what players are working with in the competitive scene, and you can see how you can apply that into your ladder game. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to give this channel a subscribe. Be sure to check out the videos from Matrion and Worths. They've been providing great content for this channel in my absence. And I hope you guys get on the ladder, try these decks out. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the Husk control. If you like control and you like just destructing your opponent's hand, definitely give this a go. So until next time, guys, take care, and I hope you enjoyed my meta snapshot.